community. Again, I'm John Boyce, the president, and at-large member. We have Carol Flax, and if you members, board members, if you're here, stand up. Who is our vice president? I think she's focusing on something there. Michael Claiborne. Clyde. Our secretary, also an at-large member. And he's our moderator for the night. Two other at-large members, Brandon Wise and Sean Kazi. And then our organizational members, we have a representative from Clinton Water, Don Simmons, who's also our treasurer. From the Friends of the Clinton Library, Phyllis Alexander. South Whitby Parks and Recreation is Jennifer Cox. Clinton Chamber of Commerce, Emily Switzer. South Whitby School District, Joe Greenherring. Port of South Whitby, Kirk Gordon. And our ferries representative is Dave Huberworth. Thank you all for being here. And like I said, we meet the last Monday of every month at 6 o'clock all the time. We hear reports from all of our organization members. We bring up current things, issues that we're working on. And so it's good stuff. Stop and see us. I'd like to thank, a special thank you for Carol Flax and Christina Swan, a past board member and a current community member who's very active on the board. They made all this happen. Involved in it years ago when it was happening, brought it back, and here we are. So thank you very much to Carol and Christina. A lot of work in that. And with that, I'll keep it short. Carol is going to talk about our format for tonight. She's going to go through that, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Don. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Glad to see you all here. Not quite as crowded as the last one. If you were at that one, that was standing room only. I don't know. I guess we blame you, Pete, for that. But it's still great to see so many people here. And I especially want to thank Christina, Michael, and John for helping put this together. It's been interesting. And of course, thank you to the candidates for showing up, agreeing to show up and being here. We're recording this, so, which I forgot to ask. Anybody object? Forgot to ask you. I get in trouble if they said yes.
Put them on the spot.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, we are recording this. And it'll be posted, I think we're going to post it through, what's it called, Voters Interest Project. And there'll be links on our website, our Facebook page, our, all the various pages for that. So if you know people that haven't made it and want to hear about it, you can tell them to check our pages. We have a few things coming up, the council. We're working with Island County planners on community engagement for the Clinton sub-area plan of the comprehensive plan. And their first meeting for that is going to be here on July 24th at 4:30 to 6. So if you're interested, I don't know if people are even aware, so by coming you'll learn more about that. It's pretty important that Clinton made it to the comp plan. So we're working with them on that. We're also going to do a community event sometime later this year, a community outreach meeting, which would be twice a year. Okay, rules. So first rule is there will be no questions taken from the audience. With the exception of the beginning of the program, the audience will be asked not to applaud or express support or opposition to a candidate during the forum, as it limits the time available for questions and can be disruptive to all involved. So we appreciate it if you listen quietly and don't make comments. Why is my mic doing this?
I don't know.
Very annoying. Okay, the first candidate to answer a question will have 90 seconds, and then each subsequent candidate for that question will have 60 seconds. And Michael will explain all this in more detail when I hand him the mic. And the end of the questions, the candidates each have 2 minutes for a closing statement. There are time limits. The time limits are going to be enforced. There's a timekeeper who happens to be me. And what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show these guys because they need to see it, not you. It's when you have 30, if it's a 90-second answer, I'm going to tell you 30 seconds, 15, 5, time. Okay? And if you make a point of not making eye contact with me, we're still going to stop it. Because there's a lot of you.
Still talking? You get the
Yes,
bell.
you get the bell. We had to actually master the last one. Michael didn't bring a bell. So, I think that's probably all the rules. We'll end hopefully around 8, and then the candidates will be here until probably 8:30 to meet with you and answer your questions. So thanks a lot.
Okay.
Boy. Well, Mike Clyde, I'm the moderator for the night. It's gonna be a hot time in the old town tonight. So we've got ice water back there. Everybody needs water, we're taking care of you. Thank everyone for coming out to hear the candidates for the Legislative District 10 Senate seat with the 2 representative positions. Informed voting is a critical component of our grand national experiment in self-governance. We hope you will leave here this evening more informed about these 7 candidates and their perspectives on various issues. So I have the envelopes here. We have 8 questions that of our first batch. And as Carol explained, the first candidate to answer each question gets 90 seconds. The other 7 candidates will get 60 seconds. And so if we get through all 8, then each candidate would go first on one question. And I'm going to pull the questions out of the bag and shuffle them here face down so that I am not involved in determining which topic each of you gets to answer first on. And as Carol said, we are making an audio recording. So I will read each question once, and then we'll rotate who starts first. And then I will call each of your names in order, just so the name is on the audio recording. People can keep you straight. And with that, we're ready to start. Oh, so I'm going to shuffle my questions here. Here.
Michael didn't say this, it's probably obvious, but there's one mic on each table, so there's share. John said it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just start one here. We're going with Kennedy going first. And the only question, they each have 90 seconds to this, right? Yes. So you each have 90 seconds for an opening question. And the question is, introduce yourself and tell the audience the top 3 priorities you plan to address as you represent 10th legislative district. So Carrie Kennedy.
Hi, my name is Carrie Kennedy. I have been a resident in Island County for 37 years, the Navy cut. My husband and I is here. My mom and dad have retired next year. My dad is a naval officer. I decided to run for office because I am not happy where the country's going. I also, my husband and I bought property twice, and I just have not liked what is happening in the state. So I decided to run for Congress twice, and then decided that I wanted to go down to Olympia. My husband works out at the base and due to retire soon, and we're at a crossroads what we're going to do. Our property taxes keep going up. We're working more and more, and we're at a crossroads. I think this state's worth fighting for, which is why I'm running. I'm running because I'm one of you. I'm a candidate that wants to work for you all. I have no agenda. I am a constitutional, conservative Republican. And my only goal is to go to Olympia and represent you all. I want to have an open door policy and as much interaction with you all because I work for you. Thank you.
Flying Shavers.
Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Clyde Shavers. It has been an absolute privilege serving as your state representative. This journey has been the greatest honor of my life, and I am forever grateful to you all. 2 years ago, I had this desire to bring people together, to find kindness and caring within our hearts as neighbors and friends once again, to make the change we all want to see. And I saw others, some who only saw problems and only criticized, but I wanted to be more. I wanted to be that positive change. I wanted to see the solutions, to envision a better future, and ask myself and ourselves how. And in the past 2 years, having passed 7 of our own bills that directly affect our lives, co-sponsoring numerous others, it has been such a wonderful experience sharing your stories. My goal and my passion will always be lifelong commitment to public service. And I'm so proud to be part of this wonderful world, ensuring that your voice and your story is heard in Olympia. Thank you.
Yvonne, Gallardo.
Hi, thank you all for coming out tonight, giving me this chance to earn your support. My name is Yvonne Gallardo, and I'm running for state representative because I am an experienced elected official, honest and service-minded community leader. I have 9 years as a Navy veteran with 2 deployments overseas, and I want to put those 9 years of Navy discipline and 19 years of experience living, playing, volunteering, and working in our district to challenge the current dysfunctional and broken systems that we have. I am a woman of action. I have been working very hard since 1999 to serve and to do well by my community. I have a passion for service, and I want to support and ensure that we have good public safety and child welfare, economic development, and support our veterans like myself and my husband. I believe that I'm the best candidate state representative because I have an active experience and extensive diverse background in public safety, notably as a city council member, chamber director, and dedicated volunteer. I want to make sure that we can fight hard to make this place a safe community, make sure that we have a good public transportation, make sure that we support our small businesses, and make sure that we have an education system that brings forward and brings us educated, well, ready, and ready to put into work a good workforce for our small businesses. I, Yvonne Gallardo, would be honored to serve you in Olympia as your next representative, so I can be a voice of common reason for the people.
And then Gary Wray.
First of all, I want to thank the Clinton Community Council for putting on this so we could get the message out. My name's Gary Wray. I'm a 33-year resident of Denny Island, over 40-year resident of 10th Legislative District. I'm running with the 10th Legislative District position 2. I got into this race because I feel very strongly that Olympia's lost touch with the locals. What party control in Olympia has gotten us in the position we're in, and I see a lot of things that are not good. So I decided to get in and run, and I think I can make a difference. I'm a Navy veteran. I was a reactor operator 18 years ago. In the Navy, came back to this area. I have a small business. I'm a contractor. I am the immediate past president of the State Builders Association, so I have a lot of experience and know people in Olympia. 3 issues that I see: public safety, I won't get into the fixes, public safety, housing, that issue, transportation, our ferries are a mess, and education, our schools, our public schools are failing our kids. So those are the top things that I see that need to be addressed in Olympia, and I think I can make a difference down there. And my time is up. Thank you.
Good. Dave Paul.
I vote 7 Dave Paul. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for coming this evening to support the Civic Forum. My wife and I live in Oak Harbor. We're both educators. We've got 4 great kids. We're now taking care of my father. My mom passed away last year. My dad, we go to Oak Harbor, so we can take care of him. It's the hardest I've ever worked for a vote in all my life. Education is really an important area for me. I think my work at the Scandrevilla College helps inform my work in the legislature. And I work a lot on affordability issues, on making sure the students have great pathways to family wage jobs, starting as early as the K-12 system. Affordability is a big issue in our community, both housing affordability, but also healthcare affordability. And I'm proud last year to have sponsored a bill that helped lower the cost of asthma medication and EpiPens, just like we did with insulin the year before. And ferries are a big deal for our community. It is, our ferry system has been neglected for far too long. I asked to serve on the Transportation Committee and then asked to be the Vice Chair of Transportation so I could help guide that system and write that ferry budget. I'm proud of some of the work we're doing to help get our ferries back on the right course. Look forward to your questions, and thank you so much.
And then Janet St. Clair.
So my name is Jan St. Clair, and thank you for having us. Thank you for hosting this event. My husband and I live on Camano Island. We are proud parents of a tribe of 11 children, his, mine, ours, and others' peoples. I was a foster parent for 20 years. I was a teacher, social worker, and am now currently your county commissioner here in my own county. Public service runs deep in my family, and I look forward to continuing that public service. The top 3 issues for me, what I hear most as we're out knocking on doors, is the issue of affordability. Folks are really struggling. Working families are struggling to make ends meet, to find affordable housing, to find affordable child care, to be able to link together affordable and accountable health care. I hear from seniors some of those same issues. We heard from Ms. Kennedy and the challenges of aging in place here in Washington State, and I think that's one of the things we have to address. Other priority issues for me have always been a lot of environmental issues. I see friends from other work I've done in that area, and I'll continue to work on protecting this place we call home and our beautiful resources. And then finally, healthcare. I've worked to stop the closure of Whitby Health, and I am dedicated to making sure we have sufficient healthcare and sufficient mental health and substance abuse treatment in our communities, and I think that's where the state needs to step up our game. Thank you.
Muzzall.
Thank you. So I will continue on with the priorities I've had. Medicaid reimbursements is number 1 of the last 3 or 4 sessions I've had a bill. Each session addressing Medicaid reimbursements. And when we talk about the cost of health care, the underpayment of state government for Medicaid reimbursement is one of the number 1 problems. Secondly, I hesitate to use the word crisis, but we are in a behavioral health and substance abuse crisis in the state of Washington. And we are dumping hundreds of millions, soon to be billions of dollars into behavioral health, substance abuse, and I believe the 2 of them are closely linked. I will continue to support that with provisos, but also with legislation, as I have in the past, to address those real basic issues which lead to homelessness, crime, and other things as well. And then environmental remediation. I think that we spend an awful lot of money on the environment that we don't see a return on. My bills are specific, and they address specific problems that are in the environment, whether it's smoke and creosote or riparian zones, whatever the case. Thank you.
Okay. One thing I forgot to say, I said I will read the question only once. But if you're at the tail end of this stream and you want me to repeat the question, I will be glad to do that. So now I'm going to Clyde to go first, and drawing thing that I file here. Sea level rise caused by climate change is real. Shoreline communities are being impacted and some homes are becoming uninhabitable. How do you think the state legislature should respond to this crisis? And what would you say to homeowners impacted by this reality? Clyde Shavers.
Thank you for this question. This question actually pertains to a priority that we've been working on for the past 2 years. So environmental protection, we've been leading in this area, specifically in clean energy technology, including fusion technology, which is the holy grail in my mind of clean energy, as well as green hydrogen. But in this question, you specifically mentioned flood mitigation efforts. We've been working hard on ensuring that we provide appropriate flood mitigation efforts to areas that are severely affected. For example, last year, our office led in obtaining $1.9 million to construct the dike and the fish levee passage between Camano and Stanwood. That's because, as we all can remember, with serious flooding during that time and king tide, and Stanwood being built below sea level, we had infrastructure underwater. And so that was a priority, working with our Congressman Rick Larson to make sure that's the case. Currently, I'm working with the Main Street Association for R-Coupeville, for example, to make sure that there is flood mitigation efforts there as well. And of course, in Camano and Mount Vernon / Burlington, this is a priority for us. Thank you.
Okay, next is Yvonne.
Thank you. I think, I work at the Conservation District, and we deal a lot with flood mitigation and working with conservation as a whole and making sure that we're working with farmers, landowners. It's firsthand experience going through it every day, making sure that these contracts and these grants are worked through. And I think the biggest frustration at the state level is that they think they're the experts, and we should be working with the experts that really do understand this and live this and go to school every day, and making sure that we're supporting these organizations that really do know a lot more about what's happening and how to mitigate it. And I think being able to support a program or a position like the conservation districts helps make sure that we can mitigate and help these homeowners that are losing their homes.
So Carrie, right, is it?
Yeah, on the climate that's going on, I think this is one of the indications of politics getting in the way of science. We have a divide between people. People claim that you're a climate denier if you go one way or the other way. What we need to do is get together and find common ground to combat the climate change. I'm in the middle of reading a book by Todd Myers called This Type of Things Small. If we get everybody on board through positive incentives to reduce our carbon footprint instead of politically trying to force people to do things, I think we will get better results. And that's what we need to do. As an example, the State Building Code Council has implemented a energy code that creates more carbon than we will ever get back out of that house in the energy savings. That's lost.
And next is David Paul.
So thank you. Yeah, I think most folks agree that climate change is real and the real controversy is how to address it. I think our state is doing a great job in trying to lead national efforts to address climate change and reducing carbon emissions, and that affects communities like ours more than many parts of the state because of sea level rise. I think the efforts on floodplain by design and other mitigation work that we've done, I think are really important. Floodplain by design, the Stanwood Dike example that I brought together county officials, local officials, tribal entities to create that, and a real example of how we can collaborate together. Looking forward, we've got to be better about this with future development in the Nkita Valdez, moving development away from the shores, because it's just going to continue to happen. I think that's just critical for us.
Denny Sandberg.
Thank you for the question. I think it is very real. I've seen many of you in this room, in our offices, and in our boardroom as a county commissioner, talking about how do we mitigate against sea level rise. It is an inevitability that is happening, and what are the solutions? The floodplains by design is an important program that I've been very supportive, visited that down in Pierce County and other counties, and was a strong advocate for the Stanwood Camino Dike, working closely with Jason Griffith at the Stillaguamish tribe to make sure that we brought that across the finish line and for funding. I think we need to do incentives for voluntary mitigation, really helping people to do the right things. We know that from research that building bigger walls isn't going to protect us, so how do we find the evidence-based programs that will help protect homes and address the real threats to sea level rise and how we can respond to that?
And, well, that's all.
Thank you. This is a complicated problem, and it has to do with private lands. In a lot of cases, if the state were to be involved, we would be looking at a gifting situation. It was my staff that came up with the extra $900,000 for the dike at Stanwood, which is a sea dike, which is an issue that if we don't raise that, we'll be flooding downtown Stanwood. But we've got our own issues with the stadium and Deception Pass State Park, McCown Beach State Park. We don't have a clear answer. We'll be at our first commission meeting. But the truth of the matter is that on one hand, we know we have a problem we need to address, but on the other hand, we continue to pass laws which make it more difficult to address those situations. And there are a lot of questions and not a lot of answers at this point in time as to how the state is going to actually help with those homeowners who are on the beach and facing sea level rise.
Carrie Kennedy.
So as a Navy wife and daughter, I lived most of my life on sea level properties or around that environment. And one of the things that I would like to explore is what do other areas outside of our district and our state do? Because there's a lot of coastline in this country, and I think that we need to explore that. And I think, like Senator Muzzall said, I personally think that we need to have more technology and less government. We need to be able to have the citizens explain to us what they think would work for them. And I do think that the technology is out there, but sometimes the government, the environmental restrictions, and the agencies sometimes tie our hands. So I think there's a lot of exploration that you can do.
Wow.
Okay, Yvonne will respond first with this next question. And the question, Washington State has laws banning bump stocks. Can you hear me? Hello? Washington State has laws banning bump stocks and ghost guns, limiting magazines to 10 rounds, and a red flag law.
All right, let's hold it further away.
Further away? Okay.
Further away.
Yeah. Okay. Let me start over. Washington State has laws banning bump stocks and ghost guns, limiting magazines to 10 rounds, and a red flag law. Do you support these current gun laws? What else would you propose to curb gun violence? And Yvonne, you got it.
I think we need to focus on, I would like to say that I think we need to focus on and making sure that we are focusing on ensuring that we keep the honest people honest and wholly, truly hold accountable the criminals that are not abiding by our rules and our laws. And I just think we need to actually take into account what the ones that are not abiding by these laws and how we are going to make sure that they are doing their time and getting rid of the illegal guns that we have and see on our streets every day.
Okay, Gary Wray.
Yeah, I think what we should have put attention towards is what's the root cause of gun violence. And I would say it's mental illness. We need, as a state, we can put a lot more money and help for mental illness and work towards that. I don't really pay attention a lot to the Second Amendment, the guns and all that kind of stuff. But when there is a mass shooting or things that happen in that aspect, they're the common root cause that's there. And that is mental illness. And if red flag laws probably help because it gets attention if we would follow up with it. Same with public safety. Our police have got to be able to do their job and not have their hands tied. I think that would go a long way to help with gun violence.
Dave Ball.
Thank you. So the first issue, bump stocks, was one of the reasons I got in the race 6 years ago, because our delegation have voted against banning those. I just cannot imagine why folks need to turn the semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon. But the other three policies I voted in support. That, you know, we face a violence epidemic, and we should be working to mitigate that, to solve that. You know, I think looking forward, we need to be looking at the data about what should future policies be. And the leading cause of death with gun violence is suicide, and talking to parents about safe storage. Yeah. It's suicide prevention efforts. Our remaining effort, our state is leading the way in this area. The future legislative work should focus on those two areas, which are the areas of greatest need.
I'm Janet Sinclair.
Thank you. I think all three of these are examples of what I would call common sense gun laws. The bump stocks, there is no reason we need to be turning a semi-automatic into automatic. We've seen the destruction. The ghost guns makes no sense. And the red flag laws has a social worker who spent years of my career working on domestic violence, trauma, the mental health issues that Mr. Wray referenced. We need to make sure that we have laws in place that help protect not only the public, but also protect others who own guns against those risks. I also think it's really important to mention that we need to have a focus on keeping our kids and our teachers safe. That was another conversation at a door in Marysville, looking to the state to ask us to help keep them safe when all they're going to do is go to school and teach our kids. And I would echo needing to support our law enforcement on enforcement of these issues. Thank you.
Muzzall.
We have passed 15 restrictive gun laws in 11 years in the legislature, and yet we continue to see gun violence climb. I have no issue with the four you mentioned, the bump stocks, ghost guns, the limits on clips, and the red flag that I voted for. But the truth of the matter is we have a societal problem. And one of the biggest issues is the youth and the guns that they have. And prohibition has never worked on anything we put out there. We have got to crack down on the usage, which is misusage of those guns. And it is reaching a epidemic. You turn on the TV in the morning and there's another dead kid in the scaffold. That is a crime in itself.
Carrie Kennedy.
So as a constitutionalist, I am a firm consultant, Second Amendment opponent, but I believe that the red flag laws, if we have mental health professionals that are looking at the specific causes, I think that's doable. But I question who would be implementing those tests, who would be determining whether, let's say, a veteran is not allowed to have a gun. We've got laws on the books. The Senator Muzzall said 15. It's not working. Why aren't we enforcing the laws that are already on the books? I think that one of the problems I'm seeing is we're not prosecuting people that actually are using the weapons in situations where they should be prosecuted. I have a hashtag that I use frequently, no trigger pulls itself. So I agree, mental health and all of this is a big issue.
And Spotty Shavers.
So yes, I support common sense gun safety legislation. I mean, I look at this issue into two perspectives. First, as a veteran myself, I understand that most veteran suicides are done with the use of their own personal firearms. And that hurts me personally. And so to me, this is a very personal issue to me. I care for every veteran. Second, as the vice chair of the House Education Committee, I'm saddened by the increasing number of deaths, children using firearms in our schools. That also carries a deep toll within me as vice chair for education. So this is something that I view this issue very personally. I'm hoping to really pursue effective legislation that will mitigate and hopefully one day prevent these unnecessary deaths. Thank you.
Okay, then Gary Wray will be first on this question. Okay. So this next question refers to a specific initiative that will be on the ballot in November. And while I am confident that all these candidates are familiar with the initiative and with the statute that it would repeal and could answer the question with no further information from me, but in order to assure the audience has enough knowledge to evaluate the candidate's answers, I will provide this background information. The Washington Climate Commitment Act, passed in 2021, authorized the State Department of Ecology to design and implement a cap and invest program to reduce statewide greenhouse gas emissions. This program works by setting an emissions limit or cap, then lowering that cap over time to ensure Washington meets the greenhouse gas reduction commitments set in state law. Covered businesses must obtain allowances equal to their covered emissions from quarterly auctions. The proceeds of these auctions must, by the law, be invested in critical climate projects throughout the state, such as increasing climate resiliency, funding alternative transportation grant programs, and helping Washington transition to a low-carbon economy. The 2023 auction raised $1.8 billion. So Washington Initiative Measure 2117 will be on the ballot in November. This initiative would repeal the Climate Commitment Act and replace it with this paragraph. All state agencies are prohibited from implementing any type of carbon tax credit trading, also known as cap and trade or cap and tax scheme, including the Climate Commitment Act, previously codified as Chapter 78.65 RCW. This prohibition applies whether the resulting increased costs are imposed on fuel recipients or fuel suppliers. So the question that the jury raised first is, will you support or oppose this initiative?
I support it. The Climate Commitment Act was, again, what I was referring to. I think a lot of politics that goes along on down there make lots of time. Right now, you're paying about $8 every time you fill your tank of gas. And the reason it's so high, unlike our governor who said it's only pennies, it's actually more like 48 cents. The reason it's that high is because they've allowed speculators in to bid on these things. If things need to be changed to make it work better, if we keep it at all. Senator Mullet proposes getting the speculators out of the market and would bring the money that was generated down to half. The other problem with the Climate Commitment Act is how the money is being spent. The Department of Commerce just went out with an RFP asking for entities to apply for some of this funding. Those 90 points available to get. 10 points of that is if your company or your entity has never applied for it before. So they give more than 10% advantage to an entity that has nothing. And there's nothing in the RFP that says how are we going to reduce the carbon.
Dave Ball.
So thank you for the question. So I'm embarrassed to say the first time I swore in my office in Olympia was when the petroleum industry met with me. And I asked them how they were going to address climate change. And their answer was essentially to kick it down the road. But at the time, they wanted something like the Climate Commitment Act. And there's certainly work to be done to improve the CCA. It's an example of ag fuel is supposed to be exempt from that, and that's not working. But the Climate Commitment Act is paying for about a quarter of our ferry infrastructure moving forward, and that is going to have a direct impact on this community of Razor Hill. I don't know how we're going to fund 5 new ferries if we lose 23 or so percent of the funding if the CCA is repealed. So I will not be voting to repeal the CCA, just remember.
Denny Sandberg.
Thank you. I was going to ask you for your tonight. I oppose this initiative, wholeheartedly oppose this initiative. This initiative asks the biggest polluters in our state to help pay for that mitigation. And what it buys for us, as Representative Paul said, it buys ferries. There's $200 million in that act for our ferries. And in this neighborhood, more than anywhere, we know why those ferries are so critical. And yes, they are electrification, but they are $200 million, 3 new ferries. Pays for school buses, transportation, energy upgrades for low-income houses. And I've worked with state and local advocates. I agree that there are things we can do to make it better, and we can't do that while the initiative is pending. But this is critical work for our state, funding critical infrastructure in our state.
And from Muzzall.
As was mentioned, agriculture, timber, and fisheries were supposed to be exempt. They were not. We have the 4th highest food costs in the nation. Seattle, for cities of its size, is number 1 for food costs. The bottom third of our population is struggling with disposable income. 46 cents a gallon, the Climate Commitment Act added to the price of fuel, and we've been pointing fingers all directions, but that bottom third of our population, they don't care because they're struggling to survive. What I support is the citizens' right to vote on an initiative as to whether they want to repeal that. That is the right that was guaranteed by our forefathers, is the right to an initiative. They will decide how we will proceed on this. But it has been inherently unfair to a large portion of our population.
And Carrie Kennedy.
So I'm not real super familiar with this, but I'm going to go back to the same thing that I started with. What do the people that I represent want? I question the money issue. That's one thing that I'm passionate about, how our tax dollars are being used. And if people want to support this initiative, then I think I need to hear from the constituents.
Good. You ready, Glenn? Clyde Chambers.
This is an important question because it touches upon my priority, and that priority is to fix our ferry system. The CCA directly contributes to making sure that our ferry system can, should, and need be fixed, and I applaud our CMA representative, who's vice chair of the Transportation Committee, working the ferry issue as well. So for me, the CCA is necessary to fix our ferries. At the same time, these CCA money or dollars have a direct input into our community in terms of transportation costs, in terms of buses, for example. So we are seeing the benefit of the CCA dollars. However, I also want to be clear, though, I do support initiatives because I do want to hear from people. But for me personally, I oppose this initiative and continue to support the CCA.
And Dawn Gallardo.
I fully support anything that the voters will want. I think this is amazing. I think the people are talking and seeing it. It's just too expensive and they're fed up. And that is why it's on the ballot. That is why we're seeing this going out and why people want to repeal this. Because we are not seeing the farmers, we are not seeing the things that we said we were going to exempt, we didn't exempt. And it's too hard. The red tape is so hard to improve that farmers are not going through the struggle of it. We are seeing our prices going up, continuing to going up. We are seeing audits where billions of dollars are missing, and then we're talking about something like this where we should be able to restructure our budget and really pressure and find accountability of where that money is going and why the money is not being used the way we said it would be used. Our community deserves better, and this is the voice of the people, and I fully support it being there and voting and hearing what they say.
Okay, thank you. And Dave Paul will respond first to this one. South Whitby has long needed roundabouts or other traffic calming measures on State Highway 525 from the Clinton Ferry Dock to Freeland to prevent further traffic fatalities and accidents. Do you support and how would you promote WSDOT transportation funding for these projects for Island County?
Thank you, that's a great question. So roundabouts are a way to save lives. They help reduce collisions, and then the collisions that you have that are fender benders instead of fatalities. And not everybody in the community loves them, but if you look at what happened at Sharps Corner when Highway 20 goes due south towards Whitney Island, folks were pretty doubtful that that's going to work, and it's greatly improved traffic safety there. So I've been fighting in the transportation budget to increase roundabouts on Highway 20 and 525 down the south part of the island. There are some roundabouts in the transportation budget. I can try and get those looking up. We just don't have enough funding to get everything we want done. My job is to keep the focus on that and then to help use that data subject to over the next one something to be. But it's a conversation I have with the State Department of Transportation on a regular basis. And again, it's a funding issue, and we just do not fund our transportation sector well. Billy likes it in the taxes we use. We'll see how these switch tax to white police. And we feel like they're critical for saving lives, and I'd like to see more of them on the responsibility of like you live.
And Janet Sinclair.
So I appreciate this question. It's very timely today. I received an email from Senator Cantwell's office regarding new funding for the bipartisan infrastructure law that allows us to address exactly issues like that. I forwarded that on to the mayor in Stanwood and to R-Island Transit, and I really believe it is a solution on 525 to be able to use these dollars to creatively address whether it's roundabouts or overpasses or other solutions that are existing so that we can stop the amount of accidents. I will say I do a lot of work with WashDOT because of our interregional transportation planning and all of that, and really respect and honor them. What I don't honor is the fact that our data says how many deaths do you have before you can be eligible for funding, and that is not the way we should be approaching these problems. It should not be the way we're approaching problems. We need to have preventative strategies that keep us safe going forward.
Go on, Muzzall.
Thank you. So it is dollars and cents. And when we are charging about 50 cents a gallon for tax on fuel, what we see is a declining income from that. People are using less fuel, whether it's electric cars or higher mile per gallon. There's less money to spread around transportation. There is federal dollars out there, but the metrics are what determine roundabouts. And unfortunately, when you've got limited dollars, that's what it comes down to. What are the most dangerous intersections? And those are the ones that get roundabouts. So until we can have money growing on trees, we're limited by the amount of money that there is to invest in these intersections. And unfortunately, it goes to the more dangerous ones. Thank you.
Barry Kinsey.
Because I've lived overseas, I've been from now multiple roundabouts, different lane levels and that kind of thing. For safety, I think it's pretty imperative. We all know that if you lived here, there have been a number of accidents on 525. The funding, I think, is going to be a challenge. I don't agree that we need data. If we know that we've got an influx of residents or tourists, and that's impacting how we drive and live and fatalities, that needs to come into play, not waiting until we have an accident and then trying to figure out budgets. So I do think that we need to look at the funds and could you?
Clyde Shavers.
So this is a serious issue. Last year, my first session, I received numerous emails about fatalities and accidents that occur. And then I continue to receive emails even this year as well during session, before session, after session. I did reach out to WashDOT numerous times. My first year and my second year as well, trying to find funding, so I agree, funding is difficult. But our job is not to just say it's difficult to give up. Our job is to continue to push forward and not give up. So that's what I intend to do to help the transportation committee, to help our colleagues. We've been pushing for roundabouts here between Clinton and Freeland, pushing roundabouts between Tomato and Stanwood, and also pushing roundabouts in Arlington. There's no question these roundabouts will save lives. So the question is, how much money do we want to place to ensure that we save everyone's life?
Revive Gallardo.
This is a really sensitive question for me. As somebody who I thought my sister was really young and my dad was were hit before my 15th birthday, and we almost lost them like 2 months before my quinceañera, and that was how I almost thought I was going to celebrate my 15th birthday. So anything that I trust the traffic engineers, I trust as a city council member, we work very well with our public works department and work really well to understand how these traffic calming infrastructures help really reduce accidents and making sure that we are safe and we provide a safe community for our residents, for our tourists. And I think we do need the research, we do need the science, but we also need to stress and make sure we're finding that budget, that money, and making sure that we are providing a community that also understands how to use these roundabouts and also understands what a yield sign means and how to use your left finger. It is a key. Thank you.
When Carrie Wray.
Yeah, roundabouts work when they work and the way they belong. And as others have said, it comes down to fighting. How do we pay for it? I think what Yvonne alluded to, I think it would be helpful if we spent a little money educating the drivers on how to use them. I do love the roundabout. I lived in New Hampshire when I was a little kid. There was a roundabout just down the street, so I learned how to navigate a roundabout. But when we are pushing roundabouts into places like the intersections at Freeland, that makes no sense, because that's going to spend the money there and not have it on the highways. I think the traffic engineers have got it figured out, or are figuring it out. It's limited resources. We got to spend the money wisely. That's what's got to happen in Olympia, is we've got to watch the taxpayer dollar a lot harder. I think the ferries could be
Okay. So Denny Sandberg will answer first. And the question is, the preamble to Article 9 of the Washington State Constitution states, "It is the paramount duty of the state to make ample provision for the education of all children residing within its borders without distinction or preference on account of race, color, caste, or sex." So the question is, what is your plan to fix the current school funding model to ensure South Whitby School District no longer needs to make budget cuts like they did in 23 and 24 and will likely do in 24 and 25?
Well, thank you so much for this question, because as a former teacher, my mother was a teacher, my brother's a teacher, his wife is a teacher, my children are educated in public schools, and we can all of us in this room go on and on. There is nothing more important than the education of our children. We thought when clarity was going to be the fix, that fully funded education, it is not. There are a couple things I think we need to take a look at the state legislature, and one of them is how do we find new and novel sources of funding, which we do see for school funding in the capital gains tax that was for a tax on our most rich, those who make, because I'm not one of them, more than $250,000 a year in capital gains. So I think we have to continuously be looking for sources of funding like that. But we also need to take a look at the ADA, the average daily attendance, because in rural counties that often makes it harder for us to fund our schools. It's been a crisis in the San Juan Islands, and it's a crisis in many of the smaller rural schools. How do we look at ADA and other solutions to see how do we fully fund education? And then finally, I think we have to work hard to get our kids back in school. We had a meeting at our Board of Health with our superintendents, and we know that enrollment has fallen off. That's affected South Louis School District and all of our schools. We need to get our kids back in school and support them in being successful.
Muzzall.
McCleary failed on about 25 schools or issues. We've worked to address that. We've got some other issues, but inherently we are approaching $19,000 a year in state funding for schools. That is up significant. Now that amount, that is over half of our budget in the state of Washington. We continue to push more and more money to schools, but we see enrollment dropping significantly. And when we look at kindergarten numbers, it has dropped astronomically across school districts. And that is just pure and simply, kids are not having kids. So we pay on a per student basis in the state. That is having an impact on districts because they don't have the students. So there isn't an easy answer to this question. It's going to be hard.
Carrie Kennedy.
So one of the things that I think that we need to look at very hard with education is why the enrollments are going down. I'm always a special ed teacher, so I've been around education. I did a lot of parent volunteering in Tupelo with the daughter who's there. And one of the things I'm seeing in Coupeville is the enrollment is going down. And when I was talking to people when I was running in 2020 and 2022 for Congress, the biggest concern the parents had is what their students are being taught in school. And we wonder why enrollment's down. There's more, I believe, in charter schools. I believe that parents have to have a choice and they have to be able to have some say in what the curriculum is. So I think if we were to start looking at what the kids are learning in school and what they're being taught in school, maybe enrollment might go up.
Clyde Shavers. Clyde Shavers.
So like I mentioned before, as the vice chair of the House Education Committee, I spend a considerable amount of time on ensuring that every student has the resources and tools to succeed. This is the problem. My first year, I was thrust into this role as vice chair, this leadership role, and I quickly realized our archaic, broken school funding model, but we didn't give up. So after the first year, on the help of Representative Reeves, we established a work group to figure out how can we make this whole workable school funding model more market? How do we make it more equitable? And we're working towards it. It takes time because it's a tough problem to solve, for example. But for example, in our House Education Committee, we have tried to push bills that prioritizes state funding for investments into the rural areas where we have school buildings that are falling apart or that are hazardous. My education committee, along with we, for example, last year we went to Central Washington to figure out what can we do, what students are being done harm. So that's what we're working right now.
Gallardo.
You know, so this is another one that's pretty personal. I have two children, a 14 and a 17-year-old, and one just graduated, another one's going into high school, and I have been involved very actively in the PTA since my son was in kindergarten. And every time we go to a conference, every time we would talk, these smaller school districts are just hurting, and we need to figure out how to help them and how to make sure that that we are making sure that we are funding and making sure that we are also ensuring that our students are getting the education they deserve. People are not having kids we were older when we had our kids, and it's because we are living differently now. And we need to make sure that we're adjusting for that and making sure that we're finding the resolution to be able to support their choices of where parents want to send their kids, but holding accountable the school districts to the STEM program, making sure that we are keeping on top of what kids will need to be successful and contributing to our society later.
Gary Wray.
Yeah, education, as the senator was all said, it's over $19,000 per student right now. That's significantly up. So it's not money. It's not about money. It's about resources and efficient use of resources. Our public schools have no competition. I support charter schools. I support parents deciding where the kids go to school. I think the budget problems our schools are having right now is because quality enrollment, because parents are not sending their students to the public schools. They've lost confidence in our schools. It's not going to be an easy fix, but I think part of the problem is an awful lot of money in public schools is spent for administration and doesn't get to the classroom. My wife's a retired school teacher. I got two brothers that are school teachers. My dad was a college professor.
Dave Paul?
So I agree that education system, our K-12 education system is the paramount duty of our state, and it should be well funded. The prototypical funding model is not keeping up with inflation. So when you look at those dollars that are going into the K-12 system, it's not, on a per student basis, it's not keeping up with inflation and districts like being forced to cut than other areas. We underfund with special education. We underfund with nurses and counselors. We need to fully fund those areas. And as Rep. Schaefer has mentioned, we're not funding the capital projects the way we should be. We've got declining birth rates in our community, and we're going to have to do other things like work on workforce housing so that families can afford to live here. Young families can come to send their kids to school here. But we're going to have to work on this education issue, otherwise, just if we're really having had a terrible time with the budget ones.
Okay, thank you. And Ron Muzzall will answer this question first. The shortage of boats and trained personnel has created continuous problems on ferry routes. How would you prioritize bringing these up to a level adequate to serve all routes? And specifically, would you support funding for 2 or 3 conventional diesel ferries, which could be in service sooner than the planned hybrid ferries? Ron Muzzall.
Thank you. Actually, I have legislation sitting, waiting for the RFP to come back on these new electric hybrid boats. I would support 4. I would support 4 Olympic class ferries, not the RFP that went out, which lengthened them, but the old standard Olympic class clean diesel boats. I realize there are those who disagree with me, but I believe that we can get them built in less time, and we can get them built a lot cheaper. We're going to see when this RFP comes back what the price is. There's part of that process that hasn't even been created yet, and that is the plug-in, essentially a robotic arm that plugs in the electricity. Besides that, we don't have the power to charge the boats. And initially, they were going to do it here at the Clinton dock. Well, that didn't make any sense. And so now they're going to do it on the other side. But on one of the bids to PSC, and it wasn't at the Muzzall dock, it was $20 million to bring the power in. So we've got some real issues, and a lot of it, honestly, I believe, has just been pure and simple negligence. We have not upgraded, and yes, we have a new program to bring more workers into the system, but we lost a lot of good people, and there's a labor shortage everywhere, but particularly in maritime, and that cost us dearly. Thank you.
Carrie Kennedy.
So I think the ferry system got pretty bad during the COVID situation, and then you start firing people because they go to get vaxxed, and then we wonder why we've got shortages. I am 100% for diesel. We don't have the infrastructure in place for EVs, and I think that we've got to seriously look at our resources that we have in this state. And if we do not have the infrastructure for electric, why are we waiting to have transportation that is required, especially from people like us that live on islands, for livelihoods? It makes no sense to just sit back and wait. So I am 100% for me to get the visas up. We need to fix the ferries that are down and get them up so people can get on with their lives.
Clyde Shavers.
So we need to build our ferries as fast as possible and get them ready now. It is an issue, a crisis that all of us are facing. At the same time, there is a workforce issue as well. This past legislation I've been working on expanding career learning opportunities, specifically in the healthcare side, for example, for our high school students. Right now, as we speak, my policy team is working on a new career learning opportunity program that really delves into the maritime industry, the ferry industry, so that one day, hopefully soon, we're developing a new generation of young adults who have experience certifications in some roles to be part of our ferry workforce and trying to energize the ferry workforce so that our ferries are built now and we have the young workers excited to serve us in our communities.
We'll go into everybody.
I think it's just really sad that this has been going on for so many years, and it's such a big, large community is being affected by this. And it's something that affects not just the residents trying to get to work every day, but it affects people trying to, I have a girlfriend who has cancer, and going to Seattle to get her cancer treatment has cost her 6 hours a day because it takes so long to get across, and not knowing if she's even going to catch a ferry or not. And it's dangerous and it's scary to know that our health is getting endangered, our residents are getting into like losing or potentially on the verge of losing their jobs. So we need these ferries built. I think that until we can see that there is going to be a sustainable infrastructure to help support the hybrids and help support the electric, then we just need to figure out how to get these built and really support the residents of Island County and everybody that comes to visit the islands.
Gary Wray.
Our ferries are vital to us, and to try a new technology that doesn't even exist in the world is foolish, in my opinion. If you think that we're going to have ferries in operation by 28, I don't think it's going to happen. So why are we going with new technology? I thought what we could do, go with a diesel boat now, design them in such a way that they will be easily converted when the technology is there. Again, I think what goes on in Olympic as far as politics, and they've lost touch with us out here. The leader, ferry person that was running the ferries with his dog, fortunately now, recently has said that the reason we are short on ferries is because of an initiative of the people. That initiative was over 20 years ago. That's not leadership. So we need our leadership, we need to work together, we can find the resources.
Dave Paul.
So when I first got elected, the number one complaint I've heard on ferries was that the sun deck wasn't open. Those days are long gone. The legislature and the governor have ignored ferries for far too long and worked hard to try and get it back in the forefront. Either revitalize the ferry caucus so that we can fight for the ferries. The company that built the powertrains for the Olympic class diesels has gone out of business. The fastest way for us to get ferries is to keep with this RFP, the electrical proposals that are supposed to be open this summer. If that doesn't work, then we go back to the drawing board. But you've got to get these going. And I'm committed to that. I'm also committed to making sure that our existing ferry system, existing ferries are preserved. I got $49 million back in the governor's budget that was cut in this last round. We got that back to help keep those ferries running.
Denny Sandberg.
Thank you for the question. It's critical. It's critical not just for our county, but across the Puget Sound region, as well as that there are ferries in Washington, in eastern Washington. This is not going to be solved just at the state level. I was in D.C. in February with the Puget Sound Regional Council, 2 of us, one from Island County, one from San Juan County, working to amend some federal legislation in order to bring more federal dollars into our ferry system in Washington State. It's a very simple fix, but it will mean significant dollars. So we need to be working at all levels of government to make sure that our local needs are represented. I will support the conventional ferries as a stopgap measure, but I do think we're going to be needing to move in a new direction, and I think we need to be continuing our investments in our ferry system and in our workforce system. And I didn't see what the last one said, so I'll just keep talking. The workforce issue is critical to us. I think streamlining our maritime certification program is critical. The new program out at Snow Isle Tech Center is going to help us build that ferry workforce.
And I think you will start with Carrie Kennedy again on this one. Many communities in Legislative District 10 and elsewhere face a shortage of affordable housing. Will you make this a priority, and how do you propose to improve the situation?
Well, housing's going to continue to get worse as the population grows, and here in Island County especially. There's been numerous attempts to try to bring Lehigh into Oak Harbor and do some projects. And I think that we've got to start looking at the tax structure, where the money's coming from, and then on top of everything else, what is it that the residents feel? So when we look at how is the affordability of housing, what is the incomes of the people that are coming in? Who's coming to the island, specifically Island County, or where are the residents coming from? So there's a lot of factors that have to go in, and unfortunately, I think the biggest problem is the budgeting, where the money comes from, and who's going to build is going to be a huge issue.
Fine Shavers?
So affordable housing is a priority. The past 2 years, we have funded affordable housing projects in Langley, workforce housing in Coupeville, in collaboration with the Food Bank. We also funded affordable housing programs for R-Arlington and Community Services that helps with people with disabilities in Snohomish County. So we are working on affordable housing across our district. The one thing I'm also focusing on for this company session is how do we make affordable housing sustainable? How do we make it affordable for the next 5, 10, 20 years? And I think we need to start looking into innovative solutions. Most recently, I went down to Seattle and started to explore the option of this technology called 3D printing. And so right now we are drafting bills that tries to create a free innovative network or framework for Washington State so that we can use this 3D printing technology to start building small, tiny homes everywhere and make affordable housing a reality across every corner of our state.
Yvonne Gallardo?
I've been working towards this for about 4 years now. I sat on planning commission for 2, city council for 2. I've met with many developers, many residents. I just think that sometimes legislation ends up being really good on paper, but isn't well implemented. I think we end up with legislation that isn't really the conversations aren't really helping and working with the ones that really have to develop it and work towards those codes. Working on comp plans, working with our CED department is really complicated, and I think sometimes it just gets too overly complicated and too much red tape, and that is why developers end up having to charge so much, which makes it expensive for the residents. But I think the other focus too is ensuring that we have a sustainable economy in our district, and making sure that we're not just also focusing on affordability of the housing, but also bringing in the land use that we need to have good jobs here so that we can afford the houses that we want to live in and be in the communities that we want to be in.
Gary Wray?
I only get 60 seconds for this. Currently the chairman of Habitat for Humanity. Did serve on the Affordable Housing and Muzzall Board 5 in county for over 10 years. I've been the president of the State Builders Association. You cannot make housing more affordable by making it more expensive. Time delays, regulations, taxes, on and on makes housing unaffordable. 85% of the citizens of Washington State cannot afford the median price of a house, 85%. We are 280,000 homes short in the state of Washington. Government needs to get out of the way and let the private sector solve this problem. We can do it. You cannot solve this problem with subsidized housing. This part of it, we got to have all kinds of housing. And there's many solutions that can happen. We just need to get building homes. I guess I'll talk to you later. I have many ideas on solving the housing problem.
Dave Paul?
Thank you. So it's, when you talk to voters, it's a top 3 issue. So housing affordability, mental health, behavioral health, really critical issues for our community. And we've got work to do to improve workforce housing. So I call that our first homes, our starter homes. Those are also, for those of us who want to age in our community, the last home. We'll have a smaller home. And unfortunately, The private sector alone will not fix that. Either will the government alone. But the builders have an incentive to build bigger homes that are more expensive so that they will profit. And so as a legislator, I'm working with organizations like Habitat for Humanity and East Clyde Island Housing to identify ways of improving workforce housing in our community. And then when I say at the top 3 issue, it's the work I'm doing for the capital dollars, so I'll bring those back to the communities. Those are the first things I'm asking for in the budget process.
Janice, anything?
Thank you. Island County has taken a direct approach to this. We are working on that continuum of housing that was referenced, from supportive housing for people with disabilities to home ownership. We invested $9 of our $16 million that we got from the American Rescue Plan in buying land and beginning to build workforce housing for our communities. We've done investments in South Whitby. Actually, the only other place we haven't done investments is on Camino. We are very big in preventing people losing their homes through widow mortgage assistance. And at the state level, I think we need to continue to invest in middle housing, and it is a partnership between public and private. The infill density will help, innovation in addressing the barriers to infrastructure such as septic and water, and addressing some of the regulatory barriers that are inhibiting our ability to get to scalability on housing.
Muzzall?
Thank you. Specifically, it was workforce housing, and this last session, we got a significant amount of money for having foot workforce housing in the city of Langley. Also had different programs for habitat. Housing is a supply and demand issue like everything else in life. And we have a tremendous issue with supply, which is largely controlled by government. And I'm not saying Growth Management Act is bad, but it began the process limiting supply. Also, time is money. And our counties and our cities' permitting programs take way too long to get permits through in order to begin. And time is money. Each of that adds price to that housing. So we need to continue to pressure our cities and our counties to make it an easier process. We need to also look at the supply of available land so that we can drive down the cost of housing.
Okay, thank you. We got one more question here. And Clyde Shavers is the first responder. Many islanders, along with the Clinton Community Council, have advocated for the non-motorized trail from the Clinton Ferry to the Deception Pass Bridge for many years. The idea is to have a healthy, safe, and beautiful path to travel the island end to end. Do you support this project? Do you see this as a valuable legacy we can leave future generations? And will you work with citizen groups to make this happen?
It's a very easy answer, yes. I support trails. I think trails are lovely. They should be everywhere, especially on this wonderful, beautiful island that we call home. And we've been working on trails, for example, Arlington as well, because Arlington is growing. So is Whitby, so is Skagit, Concord. And so to me, trails are not just important for enjoying nature, but for example, we worked on a bill that we try to push, unfortunately it didn't pass, but it would allow veterans and low-income thresholds to have free access to state parks, for example, and other trails, because it helps with veterans dealing with PTSD. So we all know that being in nature will really help us mentally, and it will really help those who might be struggling with mental and behavioral support, for example. So again, this is an easy answer. I completely, unequivocally support trails. I hope that we can continue to push funding for nature-related conservation programs, in this case, trails as well.
Yvonne,
This is also an really easy answer for me too, is yes. As someone who's actually volunteered to help clean up trails, who's obviously uses them all the time as an avid hiker. When my kids were younger, that was my way of making sure that we were doing something healthy and together. We camp out here all the time. I love Fort Casey. It's one of my favorite campsites, and so I love being out here. And every time somebody comes out here, first place I bring them is the Fort Casey. And I really enjoy enjoy being outside. I am also, because I'm a 30% stable veteran, I do have free camping, and I do use and take advantage of that. And I am outside as often as I possibly can be. And the idea of having and expanding a trail so that everybody can enjoy it at every level, I think is really important. I know with Arlington, when we were talking about the expansion and trying to get closer to connecting them, it was exciting. I also worked on a trail when we were talking about it out in Monroe. So I fully support and will work with everybody to help this happen.
Gary Wray?
I absolutely support trails, camping, getting outdoors, all those things. Would highly support getting the citizens involved to help with it, to maintain most of the thing. Again, it basically boils down to funding. What kind of funding do we have to do it? What does it cost to put these trails in? You gotta find funding, and you have to have a volunteer base to do it. One of my fondest memories from long time ago when I was in high school was hiking. We went in up around the Stevens Pass and came out in Darrington. It was a 60-mile hike, and I remember that my entire life. That's important to our kids. That's important of our legacy of this thing, and we need to support. I absolutely support those kinds of things. But again, it's what does it cost? If it's so cost prohibitive that it takes their, life and roundabouts, well, we have to make hard choices.
Big Paul?
Yeah, so this is a really important local community issue, and out of the bipartisan work I did in my first term with Representative Norma Smith to get funding, and I think it was Commissioner St. Clair's predecessor who helped kill the funding, who brought that back at the state level. Trying to help the county with that. A great economic development tool to get folks to be able to ride their bikes or walk on the ferry and then go up the island. Really proud of that work, and I know the county is working on that design phase, and I think it's up to folks in this room to help pressure the county to keep up that work and then look for outways for us to help with the capital project process at the state level.
Janice St. Clair?
And thank you for taking me back on memory lane. I ran in 2018 on this Clinton to Kent's Corner Trail issue. It was appalling to me that we gave back the money to the state for a trail that was fully funded. It has cost us more to implement now, but we are doing so with the money that the state brought to us for this project, and I do thank even Representative Norma Smith for that work. The county has really increased their investments. We continue to build our trail networks across both islands, a lot of it using conservation futures or other sources of funding, believing that that multimodal trail network is critical. It is also important to know that we have important partners in building these trail networks. Volunteer organizations in places like the D-Camano Land Trust help us build out these trail networks and are helping us make sure we get people outside, and we're building a healthier community because of it.
Ron Muzzall?
Well, I'm going to echo. I think trails are wonderful. I also think roundabouts are wonderful, and ferries are wonderful. And everything else we do as a state, including the I-5 Columbia River Bridge, is wonderful, which probably is going to cost us a couple billion by the time we get there. Our issue is, and always is, how much money we have and what are the priorities of the constituency. And unfortunately, we sit in a situation where we have to make those decisions in the legislature. And they're hard, folks. They're difficult. These are tough decisions. But there is only so much money, even if we have doubled the state budget in 10 years.
Thank you. Great Kennedy.
So I think we need trails as long as there's funding. I'm concerned about the impact that it would have on property owners. Who's going to maintain those trails? Volunteerism is great, but what happens when those people aren't available? And what is it going to do to encumber the traffic? We've already mentioned that we've got traffic issues. So will the trails be on roadways or off roadways? I am concerned about the property. How will that impact property owners? And the biggest thing is the funding. If we're going to just do this for a certain group or a minority, but we've got housing problems or other issues, I think would let us really look hard at the priorities that the constituents want.
Okay, we're almost to the end of our time, but now each candidate has 2 minutes for a closing statement. And we'll start with Yvonne Gallardo.
First, thank you all very much for being here again. Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this, and I really appreciate you giving us this time to earn your support. And you know, my kids inspire me every day to do what is right by them in our community. I want to take that passion for our community, the love for my family, and the experience I have gained these last few years of serving as an elected official to Olympia as your next representative. Over the years and while campaigning, I've heard many times how frustrated folks are with the state of our broken ferry system, crime, homelessness. And I want to take all of that, and I want to take all of those concerns, and I want to make sure that I also use what I've learned at City Council. The votes that I've taken are to help support first responders, park improvements, embedded social worker program, our local resource center, infrastructure improvements. I want to take all of that experience to Olympia with me and do what is right by you. This is experience and passion that we need at the state level to help us now. As a woman of action and passion of service, I am the kind of representative that is able to work with both sides of the aisle to ensure that the different issues faced by the 3 counties in our district are heard and addressed. I understand that the transportation issues here are very different than maybe I'm experiencing on the mainland. And I want to make sure that folks are understanding that as well and really taking that into consideration. I have lived in this community for almost 20 years. I am embedded. I am here. I've lived through the mess and what dire of it. I'm ready to represent and create change and bring action to our community. In today's political charged atmosphere, it is easy to get caught up in party politics instead of just focusing on the policies that will actually help folks in our district and see solutions with their geographic transportation issues, affordability concerns, employment, parental rights, quality education. I, Yvonne Gallardo, would be honored to serve you in Olympia as your next state representative and pledge to uphold the United States Constitution, our state constitution, and the voice of the people, so together we can bring common sense solutions to the problem.
Gary Gray.
Again, I want to thank the Clyde Community Council for inviting us and all of you for showing up and listening, and hopefully we educated you a little bit on where we stand. As I said earlier, I'm the current chairman of the Habitat for Humanity. There's a solution there, and we have a community land trust. Don't call it community land trust. We have a land trust that keeps our homes permanently affordable for our families there. But housing is my issue, and housing affordability is just not there, and it's because of time delays. Habitat, many of you know, we have a project in Muzzall called the Ornam Park. We've owned that property for about 8 years. We haven't put a shovel in the ground yet because of regulation, because of time delays. All of that costs money, and we don't have 7 families living here right now because of government interference. I got into this race because I saw the partisanship going on in Olympia. I'm frustrated with what goes on down there. I think I am not a politician. I'm the most reflecting candidate in the world right now. I would rather just retire, but I'm community minded. I serve on many boards for the community. Over the years of this, I see as service back to the citizens. I will listen to you, what you want, and I will follow what the citizens want. I will be open, I will be available, and I will be in the community listening to the people that cannot get a program maybe to testify and that kind of stuff. I've testified on Olympia. I've been down there. I know many of the senators and representatives on both sides of the aisles down there, and anybody got they know me. And that's why I need to be in Olympia, I think, and to get things to change is what's going on down there. High times.
Then Paul.
Hi folks, thanks so much for coming out this evening. It's so good to see everybody. It's just an honor to serve as your representative. I don't know how many campaigns I have left in me, but I'd like to serve another term. And it's been an honor to listen to them advocate for our community needs down in Olympia. And I think I've demonstrated both here in our community and in Olympia that are bipartisan leader that works hard to try to find solutions to get things done. So here are a couple of things I'm working on for the next legislative session that I'd like to see through. I really care a lot about career injectable education and want to make sure that we've got great pathways from the K-12 system to community technical colleges and apprenticeship programs. We talk about affordability and all the labor shortages we have. We have work to be done to help connect young people with those careers and help support our K-12 system to do that. I think I'm in a unique position to do that as a community college instructor who also teaches that first quarter experience class. Our ferry system needs a lot of work, and we have funding for 5 boats in the budget, but our legislature has routinely gone a decade without building new boats, without budgeting new boats. We need to have a boat in every biennial budget moving forward. It's a pretty simple math problem. We need 25 ferries. They last about 50 years. They build a boat every 2 years. And until we get that, we've just got to keep the pressure on our transportation leaders to get that cooked into the budget. We dealt a lot in our family with supplies and medical building over the last 2 years. It's not supposed to be legal. I'm digging in to find out how come these insurance providers and healthcare providers are still doing it. I'm planning on working on that in the next legislative session. Thank you so much.
Denny Sandberg.
Tanaka, thank you. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. I always appreciate seeing all of you. I've always worked in public service as a teacher, a social worker, and then your county commissioner. My focus has always been on people, helping solve the everyday problems faced by all of us, and most importantly, build communities where we all can thrive. Many of the problems I've worked on intertwine local needs with state and federal issues. So working with Republicans and Democrats across this country, I helped pass a resolution, county-led resolution on finance reform, not unlike your Medicaid finance work, on TRICARE and Medicare, because that was one of the single most important issues in the Whitby Health financial crisis. I then met with the Whitby Health transition team weekly and monthly with our state and federal leaders to make sure we salvaged and protected our only hospital on this island. I worked with that team also to stop the closure of the Women's Health Clinic and ensure that women's lives were protected and their reproductive health care choices were secure. I serve on state and local economic development boards, creating jobs and supporting small businesses across our state. And as the founder and chair of the Island County Broadband Action Team, I've led the effort that brought millions of dollars in grant funding to expand affordable, accessible internet to homes and businesses across our county. We are now starting to see that money go to work. I'm running for state senate to represent people like all of you in this room. I'll work for seniors and working families for affordable housing, child care, and lower costs for all of us. I'll continue to protect our island home and our natural resources. I listen, I show up, and I get things done for the people I serve. I will be a local voice in Olympia that understands how the different levels of government interact, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to earn your vote.
Muzzall.
Thank you for the opportunity this evening. In 5 sessions in Olympia, I am ranking member on Ag and Natural Resources, assistant ranking on Health and Long-Term Care, on Ways and Means, on the Rules Committee. I'm deputy chair of the caucus. I sit on a number of other committees that are legislative related. I am one of the top 3 in my caucus for getting bills passed, which means bipartisan work when you sit in the minority. I've been given awards for my environmental leadership. I bring money back to the 10th district to build schools, to put together programs, to build workforce housing. That's because I work in a nonpartisan manner. I have friends across the aisle. I have compatriots across the aisle whom I trust and work with closely. I got into this because I saw a real problem in Olympia. And though government can be the solution, it can also be the problem. I worked closely with the state auditor's office of which in the last 3 months, we've seen that there's $1.17 billion missing of ESSER funds in the state of Washington. And as of last week, we found an individual administrative hearings that has taken $870,000 from our state coffers. We've got a problem in Olympia, folks. It's called accountability. We need somebody who will stand up, point that out, and see that we take care of that. Accountability has led us to our February situation. We need accountability. I spent 30 years, like I said, on boards of directors. I sat on audit committees of Fortune 200 companies. I understand accountability, and I'm willing to go to the mat to see that the accountability that you require is provided. Thank you.
Carrie Danley?
So as I've already stated, I'm not a politician. I came into this because I saw a broken system, a broken state, and a community that needed help. I've lived overseas most of my adult life. My resume is long because from my husband in the UCB, and we did not have children when he was on active duty. We were sent to places that most countries probably would never have wanted to go. But as a Navy daughter, I also recognized the families that showed up that needed a house over maybe what my husband and I were offered because they had children. I'm a fighter. I'm fighting because I believe that this is worth the fight. I could literally pack up at any time and go anywhere I want. But this is where I want to live. This is where I want to have my future. And the people that I've gotten to know over the last 37 years have either left or they're in the same boat. And I'm fighting for you, lad. I'm a common sense person. I want to go to Olympia and bring the values, the American traditional, constitutional values that we hold dear, that founded this country, that made it great, that made what I fought for to what my husband and my family members in the military. I'm passionate about education and on children. I'm very concerned that we are not giving them the resources that they need to go out into the real world. And we've got to have people that are going to go to Olympia and fight for you. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I passionately believe this is worth the fight. So I appreciate your vote and thank you all for coming tonight.
Clyde Shavers?
So public service is often paid with enormous personal and professional sacrifice. This past 2 years, there have been times of extreme heartache and pain, moments of doubt and struggle and sadness in seeing communities being torn apart. But in all this, no matter how deep our collective wounds may be, we move forward. We move forward because we believe that together we can make real positive change for everyone, long-lasting change. And so it has been an honor serving as your state representative. And I just want to close by saying thank you so much for letting me be part of this collective effort to make our little corner of the world just a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to thank the audience for your respectful attention. Thank you, Ray.
I've got the thanks in a while, I'm focal.
And thank you to all the candidates. Let's give them a big round of applause. And thank you to the sponsors of this event, Denton Community Council, Friends of the Denton Library, and Snow Isle Libraries. We're officially in at 8:30, so the candidates have been asked to stick around and mingle and talk to people informally. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah.